When Ebenezer Scrooge visited his past in A Christmas Carol, he saw himself alone, year after year, surrounded by no one. By the end of the story, he learned that people, family, and friends are the most important thing you can fill your life with. So join us today as we take a trip back to Christmas past and share stories of love, laughter, and spending time with a man with a vision for all of this, Gary Young. Hello and welcome to Young Living's podcast, The Wild Drop. My name is Jacob Young, your host. Young Living is the world leader in producing and distributing premium essential oils. And this podcast will provide you with drops of information about Young Living, including stories, history, product information, lots of little fun facts, and even more. And we'll also give you an opportunity to get some free product. Happy holidays from Young Living, and hope you had a wonderful weekend surrounded by family and loved ones. And we'd like to think that you're listening along on this podcast so you feel like you're catching up with family too. So we've gathered my family today, my mother Mary, brother Joseph, and for the first time on The Wild Drop, my lovely wife, Caitlin Young.
Ooh.
We've shared different inspiring stories about my father on the show before, and today we are doing it with a holiday flavor. So Mom, why don't you start with the first Christmas story that you can think of with Dad?
The first Christmas story with Dad? I have to start laughing. Because Dad decided to have Christmas in St. Mary's.
Okay.
In the old farmhouse up there, and there was probably 3 feet of snow on the ground. It was a lot of snow, and it was cold.
And the farmhouse, this was before you stared rebuilding it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Okay, so it was the terrible, dilapidated farmhouse.
This is back in it might have been 93, 94.
Oh, wow. So
yeah,
way back.
Yeah, it's way back. And you know Dad.
Oh, yeah.
He had to have a fresh cut tree. He had to cut the tree down because he didn't grow up with Christmas any other way.
Yep. No fake trees allowed.
No, oh my goodness, you said fake tree or plastic tree, and he'd look at you and like, what are you talking about?
Jacob's the same.
Are you? Are you the same way?
Kate wants a plastic little tree because, our apartment's tiny, but I told her we can just get a small baby little tree.
We were finding needles all the way into June.
Yeah, from our last Christmas tree.
It died in a week.
It's because it was too hot up there.
Yeah. It's toasty in there.
But anyway, Dad said, Mary, come on, let's go cut a tree down. And I'm looking at him thinking, oh, okay. So he gets his big chainsaw and he puts it over his shoulder. He's got on this great big red parka. And I'm tromping around in the snow trying to keep up with him. And it had to be the perfect tree. No, that one wasn't good enough. That one's not good enough. Oh, that one's too small. No, I want some that's bushier. No, it's got to be a little bit bigger.
And it had to be very symmetrical.
Absolutely symmetrical. Oh. So he finally found one that he liked further away from the back door of the house. And he cranked his chainsaw and cut the thing down. And then he realized it wasn't so light. So he wrapped the rope around it and, made like a sling and put it over his shoulder and drug it back to the house. Well, as you've had the experience, it wouldn't go through the door.
Fit. Yep. All the trees that we've gotten, for some reason, like he would measure it ahead of time, but he'd still get the biggest tree that would not fit in the living room. So if you can think of like the scene in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation where the tree's like half bent over because it's like too tall.
Oh no.
It was very similar to that. So he'd have to cut the top and then he'd have to resize the tree down, because it didn't fit half the time. And we broke so many limbs getting it through the door that he did what are called tree implants, branch implants, where he'd take a drill bit, drill into the tree, and then stick the branches back in.
Well, you're talking about Tabiona. I'm talking, just a couple of years ago. I'm talking about several years ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, he cut the bottom branches off and squeezed it through the door. And, the house was kind of old and not in the best of shape. So, if you lost a little paint on the side, it wasn't the end of the world. So he got it in, and by the time he got it put in the tree stand and standing up, it took up half the room.
Oh.
I had to push back all the furniture and everything. It was so funny. But he was happy as a lark, and we dug out decorations from the attic and put them up and we just had all kinds of fun and laughter. But he was happy with his tree.
Yeah.
But that's my first Christmas memory with Dad.
How about you, Joseph? What would you say was your first Christmas memory that you can think of?
Oh, my first? Man, it's hard to think about. I mean, I have to go back to skiing when I was like that young when I started skiing.
You got to go back at least 15 years.
Oh, well, I mean, I can barely remember that. All I know is that we would have Christmas in the conference room, and he would go, like, just full
All out.
commando. Like, yeah, he would go all out, fake snow, big trees, presents, even getting a deer that can talk.
That's right.
Yeah, we still haven't. It's just funny. It seems you
his
plug
name's
it in,
Buck.
and,
Yep.
and he sings Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
So to kind of lay out a picture of what my dad would do during Christmas in our conference room is he'd go buy as many trees as he possibly could, and he'd line the walls with the trees.
No, you don't have it quite right. You remember up in Salt Lake on 9th, 90th South, he had the friend who owned the Christmas tree lot.
I think so, yeah.
Well, he went up there Christmas Eve, and he took all the trees that he could that he hadn't sold because it was over with.
And that's what he lined the walls of
Yes,
the conference room with.
that's right. So-
he tried to make it look like we were camping outside, but we were indoors, so it was still warm. So he lined all the walls with Christmas trees, and then he got the fake snow and put it at the base of the trees. He put some in, higher up in the trees.
Just went all out.
And then he had the deer, Buck, the talking deer, sticking through the trees as if it was wild animals coming, out through the forest. And then we had our fake campfire, and he had the what's it called? The rack to tie up the horses and stuff. And he had the metal bronze horse tied up to the hitching post. That's what it is, the hitching post. We had the tent. And then he left the door open so it felt cold like we were outside. And then he went and got one of those starlight machines that lit the ceiling up with stars, little twinkles, little stars. And then we had an electric stove in the middle of the campfire pit. He went and got rocks outside and made a legitimate, legit campfire pit. Yeah,
He did.
We had logs. We had straw, hay around the tent and stuff.
Don't you remember he had wooden horses?
Yeah, he had wooden horses made too.
And he brought the saddles in from the barn, and he put the saddles over these wooden horses.
On these wooden horses,
and
yeah.
Oh my
Jacob and
gosh.
Joseph are standing up on these saddles, with their hands up in the air. Oh my goodness, they're going to fall in. It was so funny.
And then because, all the trees lined the walls, he hid the presents in the trees. And so you actually had to go looking through the forest to find your Christmas presents. And it was just the most fun thing ever. But I mean, it took him a week to get it set up and a week to take down at least.
That is the Christmas that Dad gave me the dress that he had made for me in Yemen.
Oh, that's right.
The red one with all the sequins on it that's downstairs in the museum.
Yep.
That was so amazing. It was such a shock to open the box and see something so beautiful. And then, of course, we heard all the stories.
Yo, Jacob, it's great, but let's go back to the skiing part.
Okay.
'cause,
Okay.
it's
We'll go back to skiing.
I don't know if a lot of you know this.
You can
but-
finish your story.
Thank you. You're so sweet. I'm so grateful.
Joseph, you're being silly. Come on.
I'm sorry. I love my brother so much, and Christmas has made me very grateful. But anyway, so the one thing I remember is for skiing, Dad would always, Dad was always, very kind and always taking care of me, and he would grab my hand and pull me off of the ski lift because I was too short. Well, one time, he pulled my hand, but instead of pulling my hand, he pulled the glove off. And so I was on the ski lift, and I kept going up and up and up and up, and I was scared because, can I go back, to the start? What happens if I fall off? I was just so scared. So don't do this. I jumped off the ski lift, fell 20 feet, landed on ice on my left arm, broke it. Very painful. I was screaming. And everybody just came, and I was in pain. But the coolest part was that they got this snowmobile to pick me up. A snowmobile.
That's right. I remember this. This was up at Alta.
Alta.
Yeah, this was Alta. This was years and years ago.
Yeah, it was
Do
so
you remember
cool.
Dad saying anytime we got hurt? His famous saying? What were the two things that he always said when we got hurt?
Put some oil on it.
Well, that, but kind of like his two famous sayings. One, are you bleeding? And two, can you pee straight?
Oh my goodness.
And as long as either one of those didn't apply, then he said we were fine. And then he was feeling your shoulder.
forgot about that.
He was feeling your shoulder and then realized it was broken. He thought
Well,
Joseph
they had
was
the
just
medics come down
Yeah.
and
So I remember they
forgot
put
about
you in
that.
there. We went down there, and I just raced down to the bottom. I was like, "Oh, I'll just meet you guys down there and stuff." Dad was loving it. He was recording the whole way down. Little memory for him.
Oh,
And
man.
then you have to share what happened when we got down to the hospital.
Oh, man. I can't believe I don't remember this.
you don't
So-
remember?
You don't remember this?
I remember it
I remember
very
the
well.
pain. It hurt
I mean, I can kind of
really bad.
talk about it. So once Dad had realized that Joseph's arm was broken, he was telling me that him and I needed to start praying to help Joseph recover from this broken arm. And so, Dad on the way down was praying, and while the medics were coming over, he was praying at the same time. And then on my way down, I was praying as well. And then I stopped for a split second, and I prayed again, and then I waited for you guys to get into the hospital. We were sitting in the waiting room, and then they finally checked us in, and they got you in for an x-ray to see exactly what was wrong with your arm. And
Well, they were ready to get him on a morphine IV because
Yeah.
he was screaming with pain. And
yeah.
But Joseph would always say whenever he got hurt, Dad, pray me. Daddy, pray me.
Yep.
And so they wanted to get him started on the IV. And Joseph again said, Dad, pray me. Dad, pray me.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, Jacob.
Yeah, and so Dad asked the nurse if he could just have a few minutes alone with Joseph. So she left, and they had a prayer, and he was all wrapped up. They had it really tight because they didn't want him to move it.
Yeah.
And then Dad was out waiting to see what the results of the x-ray was. When they'd put the x-ray up on the screen, the technician had looked at it, and Gary said, so what do you see? And she wouldn't answer him. She says, well, I have to go get the doctor. And the doctor came back, and she's standing there looking at it. And she was absolutely tone silent. Dad got this funny little smile on his face, and she looked at him, and she said, I don't understand. His arm is not broken.
And it was funny because Dad just said, well, Christmas miracles work in a strange way, and he kind of winked at her.
So they went and got Joseph, and he's in there taking off the wraps, and they're having a fit. And Dad said, well, Joseph, what do you want to do? And he said, let's go skiing.
Let's go skiing.
So he put his
So-
clothes back on, and
yeah.
out they went.
And then they gave him a brace, so Joseph kind of kept his arm in the brace as much as he could, just to prevent as much movement, to
Didn't
try and
want to
heal
keep
it
it in there.
properly. That brace didn't stay on long at all.
No, it did not.
And-
Nothing can hold me.
No, but it was truly a remarkable story.
Let's take a moment to give you a chance to win some free Young Living product for this time of the year. Christmas Spirit Essential Oil Blend is a combination of evergreen, citrus, and spice, like Northern Lights Black Spruce, orange, and cinnamon bark, and is reminiscent of winter holidays to invoke memories of joy, happiness, comfort, and security. And your family will love this scent year-round. So comment below on this YouTube video, #Christmas, for an opportunity to win this seasonal blend. Good luck. All right. Well, we've got to hear a story from Mom, from Joseph, a few from me, but we haven't heard a story from you yet, Kate. And
Not
you're the
yet.
newest addition to the Young family, and we've had our first Christmas together, and about to have our second. So what would you say is one of your favorite Christmas stories?
Well, I have to say, I haven't experienced many Christmas stories with you yet since it's only been 1 year.
And that's good, because we'll get to create a lot of Christmas stories.
Yes, we will. I remember last year we bought our tree, which we mentioned earlier, like the day after Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And we looked up all the tips and tricks, like the Sprite in the water
Mhm,
or
and
the
the
7-Up, and it did not work.
Nope. It died within a week.
It died within a
But we
week.
left it up anyway because it was sentimental.
Yes, it was still decorated. And when we tried to undecorate it, the whole thing was just falling apart.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It was a disaster.
And
It
then
was.
Spaz, our kitten at the time,
He was a kitten.
he was eating all of the needles.
We
Yeah.
Cats have a tendency to play with trees.
Yeah. So he was ripping all the ornaments off. He was ripping all the like wreaths, and he would climb in the tree, and he would hide under the tree, and he would lick out of the bowl, which wasn't water, so we kept trying to get him to stop drinking out of the bowl. So he would also like go in circles around the tree skirt. He would grab the side of it and just kind of go around like this. He loved playing with that tree.
I think our biggest problems were trying to keep all the bulbs on the tree.
And he kept knocking them off.
That was my thing.
Yeah.
Every like 5 minutes, I was like, take it off the floor, put it back on.
So what we ended up doing is the first like foot of the tree wasn't decorated. We moved it all to the very top of the tree.
Which didn't help because our tree was right by a chair. So we just get on the chair and then he could reach 3/4 of the tree.
What do you think the fascination was?
Little stinker.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Even before at my house with my older cat, she used to play with it, but as she got older, she would just sleep in it all day, just on the tree skirt.
So we'll see how he does this year.
and
now
we'll
we
see
have
how our
Ricky.
other
So now we have the other kitten. So we'll see how he does. Anywho.
But mostly, I think I've been introducing you to my family's Christmas traditions,
That's true.
Sourdough pancakes, which you are starting to get there.
Still not sure about those.
They're so good.
I like sourdough bread. Pancakes are a little different.
They're delicious.
They are delicious.
Einkorn's better. I'm sorry. Einkorn breakfast are better.
And then we don't. What much do we do? We still have to create our traditions, except for snowmobiling.
I mean, our family, the traditions we have is, the scavenger hunt, which we haven't talked about, which we'll share. And then snowmobiling, and then like fully decorating out, for Christmas, just to kind of get in the mood. And then, going and getting your Christmas tree. And one of the things that I don't think a lot of people realize is Dad always talked about giving more than what you take. So whenever we took a tree down, we always made sure to go back and plant one. And so I really, really liked that. And we always tried to do a little starter or something like that.
Yeah, back to the scavenger hunt. We did that in Tabiona. Did we do that at the other house?
So Dad did scavenger hunt every year. So it was our biggest present, the present that we asked for, we asked Santa, right? Dad for
Santa.
And he would create a scavenger hunt for it.
And he would make like little poems or like little riddles. They were clues. Yeah. And he'd place them in different places of the house. Like he put one in like the elk's mouth. Like he would put it like anywhere, everywhere, didn't matter, but it always like led to the biggest present. And we never like knew where he put it. And that one time he put like a bicycle
in my bathtub.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was
one of the clues. One of the hardest clues for me to find, and I can't remember the riddle, but Mom's kept all of them in an envelope. But one of them, the clue was taped inside one of the air vents underneath. So I had to lift the vent out and grab the clue from there. That was like the hardest one to find.
It was so good. It was so much fun. And then he took his camera out, and when we found the big present, it was great.
One Christmas, I'd asked specifically for a 270 Winchester, which is a lever-action rifle, and this was because I just got my hunting license and I wanted to go hunting with Dad for the first time. And you'd asked Dad to show us how to hunt because you wanted us eating venison and elk, and so that was my one Christmas request. And so we did the scavenger hunt for this, and I finally found the gun case that I thought the rifle was supposed to be in. To my surprise, well, I guess to no surprise, Dad being the jokester that he is, when I opened up the case, it was a BB gun, a plastic BB gun. But because I'd asked specifically for 270, he went and printed out a little vinyl like sticker that said 270 on it and put it on the rifle itself. And so he said, "Here's your 270 rifle." And I was half laughing and half crying at the exact same time because I was like, okay, this is a funny joke, but I was really hoping, for a rifle.
Well, Dad could always make a joke with a straight face.
I know.
And you never knew if he was serious.
You never knew
you
if he was
didn't know
pulling
what
a leg.
was coming.
So once he realized that I was pretty sad, he's like, "Oh, no worries. I actually, went and got you the rifle." And then we went shooting, and he showed me how to shoot it and stuff. And we went and put my sight on. It was fun. That's like one of my favorite memories is the scavenger hunt. Always so much fun. It literally would take you half the day to find the present because he'd leave so many clues all over the place. But he wanted you to really think about it because he wrote the clues in a way that made you have to really engage like every part of your brain to try and figure out where it is.
Over and over and over again.
You talk about all the gifts and everything. I have to think back. It was December 23rd. and I had all the presents packed up, and we were going to go to the airport to fly up to Spokane and drive to Highland.
That's right.
Do you remember that?
I remember that.
That was so amazing because we had this group of members coming to help with the harvest, and the distillery wasn't finished. So Dad was really wound up, wanting to make sure he got it finished. And he said, Mary, if we stay here for Christmas, I'll lose all that time. How would you and the boys feel about going up to Highland Flats for Christmas?
Right. I remember that.
We said, well, that's fine with us. We didn't really care because Dad always made it fun no matter where we went. So I've got everything ready and just waiting for Dad to get home. He got home and he said, well, let's get the truck packed up and go to the airport. Well, I went into the conference room and here's this bubble in the ceiling. It was like probably 6 inches in diameter. And I thought, wow, where's that coming from? I went back in the kitchen, went back out to the conference room, and it was getting a little bit bigger. So I started to get nervous. Well, I went and found Dad, and I said, Gary, honey, you got to come in and look at this. I don't know what's going on. He comes in and he looks at it, and he goes, oh, no. So he got the footstool, took a knife, and cut it. And the water gushed out all over the place. And he said, well, I don't think we better leave. So I heard and called the airlines, canceled our flight, and now we're not going to leave. We're going to go the next day, which is December 24th, if we could find out where the leak was. So we called the plumber who lived just down the street. It was like about 1 o'clock, 1:30 when he arrived, and we're so tired. And I'd already called the airline company and changed our flights to the next day. And we were trying to calculate, so if we took this flight, we could land in Spokane just in time to get to Huckleberry's, the health food store.
We love huckleberries.
So we could get food to take up to Highland. Well, the plumber came. He did find where it was leaking. He did get the water shut off, so we were able to leave. So we got our rental car and raced like crazy to Huckleberry's. And if you can imagine, they closed early for Christmas Eve.
So we didn't have any food.
So we didn't have any food. So then we drove around, and there was this another place. There was a Harmon's on the way, and they closed early.
Yep.
We couldn't find. Do you remember? We couldn't find any place that was open.
We were starving.
And there was no food anywhere. So we thought, well, I don't know. We'll go over when we get up there. We'll see if there's anything in the fridge. So we're driving down this little road, and here's this Domino's pizza place, and they were still open. So I said, let's see if we can get a pizza. So we pulled in, and I ran in the door, and he said, well, I'm really sorry, I'm just closing up. And I said, yeah, but your lights are still on. He said, we're starving. We haven't had any food. And he felt sorry for me. I put on a sob story. So he said, what would you like? And I said, I want 4 gluten-free pizzas, because they were just enough for one person. And he looked at me, gluten-free? That's so hard to make. And I went, oh, well, okay, well, just make the regular kind. And he saw I was disappointed. He said, no, I'll make you gluten-free. So he made us 4 little gluten-free pizzas with chicken on them. They were so good. We devoured them. And we finally made it up to Highland. And we opened up all our presents the night before because we didn't want to carry them in suitcases. We got to bed like about, I don't know, it must have been 1 or 2 in the morning. And we slept in. Dad got up really early and went over to the distillery, and he probably got in 3 or 4 hours of work before the rest of us got up. And then he said, tell you what, let's go skiing at Schweitzer.
That's right. That was fun. And we stayed in the little condo up there at Schweitzer as well.
So he took us to Schweitzer, and we stayed a couple of nights up there. And then we came back, and he worked on the distillery.
And we finished it before the members got there.
Like the day before the members arrived.
Yeah.
But I always remember that because it made such an impression upon me how much he cared about having everything perfect for our members when they arrived.
During our Christmas too.
during our Christmas, and he
yeah.
thought it would ruin Christmas for us, but
No, it was still fun.
we had a lot of fun. But I think it was more like the water in the ceiling that really made it
Yeah.
memorable. But that was Dad. That's really an amazing memory.
Yeah.
But there were so many things with Dad. And, you know, in the old school down in Ecuador that Dad discovered was a school that was just a rundown old building with broken cinder blocks. And these children had never had Christmas. Some of them had never had a Christmas present before. So he called the girls at the office and said, I want you to go buy presents for every single one of the children. And then he dressed up like Santa. And we have lots of pictures of it. And he was laughing. He was so happy. And the kids, they were just looking at him in awe, like they'd never seen anything like that before. They didn't know what to make of it. But they were so thrilled to have Christmas presents. But besides that, I remember, and Jacob, I don't know if you remember this. I just saw the picture the other day where you dressed up in a Santa Claus suit
Yes,
my,
he was.
yeah.
over at the new academy.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yeah.
What do you remember about it?
So we kind of wanted to carry the tradition on as well. And it was right after we had started up the school, and very similar. Some of the kids had never experienced Christmas before. And so we wanted to make sure that everyone could experience Christmas in a fun way. So Dad went and bought a fake Christmas tree because there's no live Christmas trees down there. And we decorated it. We put it in the main lobby in the school. And we got presents for all the kids there. And they were randomized, you know. And everyone got coloring pencils and coloring books and stuff, you know, to help with school. And then they got, you know, one of their presents that they wanted as well. Some kids wanted new baseball gloves, which we took down in suitcases. Some of them wanted cleats or something like that. But everyone got to go home with a present. And I just remember that they had asked me if I'd play the role of Santa Claus because Dad was, I can't remember where he was at. I think he was in Iquitos with Eugenio looking for another plant or was doing something. And so the day that we celebrated, I was the one there and they asked if I would play the role of Santa. So they went and bought me a little Santa suit. We stuck a pillow, underneath and stuff and put on the beard and colored me up and everything.
Beard came halfway
Yeah.
down your stomach. It was so funny looking, but you were so cute. And there's this picture with you standing with your arms straight up, you know, like, here I am, kids. I mean, it was so funny.
I remember that. That was a lot of fun.
There are just so many memories and fun stories, and it's a heartwarming moment to go back in time and think of all the fun family things we did with Dad. And I'm sure he's still here watching,
Oh, yeah.
laughing at all our funny things. And now Kate gets to come and be a part of that. And it's just brings back the real feeling of Christmas. And it's wonderful if we can do something to uplift someone, because there are a lot of people in need, a lot
Yeah.
of people who don't have what we have. And we have to think about how we can perhaps reach out and help those around us.
I love that all the stories have two things that are, two things in common. One is Dad was always someone that wanted to give everything that he possibly could to those in need. And one thing that I loved about Dad is he taught us that it wasn't about presents, but it's about being with family and creating those memories. And so I remember specifically that I think it was our third Christmas, my third Christmas, Joseph wasn't even born yet, that he said, there are a lot more people in the world that don't get presents. And so I want you to understand and be grateful for the presents that you do receive. And so we got 1 to 2 regular presents and then the scavenger hunt, the big present. And that's all the presents that we receive for Christmas. And I'm extremely grateful for that, to kind of just understand and just be aware that, be grateful for what you have and be thankful for it as well. Because, there are some people that don't get presents, just like the kids down in Ecuador. And so these stories for me, it's about giving and creating amazing experiences and memories with friends and family.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mother Mary, Joseph, and Kait. And thank you all for tuning into this episode of The Wild Drop. Remember, you can listen to a new episode every other Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and our newly refurbished website at www.youngliving.com. Don't forget to oil up Young Living family, and happy holidays. This is Jacob Young, dropping out.
We wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.